Hello, welcome back to Sage and Stone Homestead. My name is Heather. That milk that I just poured into the pot was just the milk from this morning. I had to put it straight into the pot today because I'm literally all the way out of refrigerator space. We are getting about 3 gallons a day from our goats, and we're not doing our kid share right now. That is just what we're getting out of the animals that either don't have kids on them or what we're getting out of the mamas with kids on them. So we're just getting the excess that the babies are not taking, and they're on mamas 24 hours a day. So this is a huge blessing. And we need to talk about that. Sometimes homesteads are full of an abundance that sometimes can be overwhelming, and I'm here to let you know that it is okay to feel that way and give you kind of a little bit of an insight as to what we do here with a lot of excess and a lot of abundance, because there's been some questions on that lately.
14, 15, this is 16, 151. All that to make 1 bar of soap.
No. That would be crazy. A big bar of soap. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and a half right here. So today is the 19th that I'm filming this, and the oldest milk that I see here is from the 14th. So the excess milk from the last handful of days is 10 gallons. We have been using milk like crazy. Actually, this past week I used a gallon of it to make some mozzarella cheese to go on top of a spaghetti that I made, and we've been feeding bottle babies. Our bottle babies eat 6 cups a day, and we've been having cereal. We've been using milk. We've been using milk like crazy, as we do. This is just the excess. This is very much abundance that we haven't had in years past. When I first started milking goats, I remember being over the moon when I was getting a quart a day. And so what I'm about to say in this video, it genuinely is relative. It really just depends on your situation, what you do, but I want to illustrate for everybody how abundance can be a little bit of a burden, and I've heard that in the past called the burden of abundance. Like I have mixed feelings about that term because it's very true. You can feel a lot of weight in what do I do with this so I don't waste it. And I want to be able to give you some very viable options for the busy homesteader. So the last time that I processed milk, I made a Colby cheese. Usually I will alternate. I'll make cheese one week and then I'll cream separate and make butter the next week. We're on the butter week, so I've loaded up my pot with probably about 2.5 gallons worth of milk. I'll get the other half gallon tonight when I milk our new goat Elsa. So I'm just gonna put as much of this milk as I can in the pot. This is an 8-gallon pot over here. Look at the cream inside this jar. I should probably scrape that out. I need to, look at that. Wow. I need to shake this before I dump it out, because yeah, we're trying to collect that cream today. It had only been 2 days, and with goat's milk, it doesn't readily separate into cream and milk like cow's milk does. And so over the course of 2 days, I didn't expect to see that kind of a cream on the top, but we had it. Ooh, okay. That's as far as I'm willing to take it. So I've got the stock pot full. I am gonna turn up the heat. I need to heat the milk up to 100 degrees to run it through the cream separator. I wasn't able to fit all of the milk, but we'll be able to fit that in today, don't worry. So this here is a Slavic Beauty cream separator that I got on caprinesupply.com. I am not affiliated with them, but that's just what I have. And I have really loved it. I think we've had this cream separator for 3 years, and it's served us very, very well. Out of this top spout here is going to come the lovely cream that we're going to make the butter out of, and down here is where the skim milk is going to go. Some of it I will collect because I want to try to make my mozzarella cheese using skim milk. I know that when we used to buy mozzarella, like the cheese sticks at the store, those were made with skim milk, and I'd like to see if I can replicate that. but most of this milk is going to the chickens. And for some reason, that's bothering some people lately, and we need to talk about it. It is very true that there's a bunch of things that you can do with like refuse milk products like whey and with skim milk. In the past, I have been very grateful that there are so many things that I can do with those products because we've had not as much milk as I would like to have in the past. Right now, we're getting way more than we need. And for us personally, all of the things that you can make with skim milk in general, aside from some stuff like Parmesan cheeses and things, most of that stuff you can also make with whole milk. And we prefer the whole milk versions of those things. So when we're getting 21 gallons of whole goat's milk every week, we don't have to scrounge and keep the skim, so we do choose to feed it to the chickens. And I think that that is an awesome thing, that we have something practical that we can do with it that supports sustainability on our homestead. So I think a lot of people who are buying most of their dairy at the store maybe don't understand how much goes into that product and how much refuse and waste really that there is. It's a lot. Today we're going to cream separate 10 gallons of milk, and I will probably get, let's say I'm going to hope to get about a gallon's worth of cream. We might get a little bit more than that, but most of what we have today is going to be fed to the chickens. And if it were a different time of year, I may have enough time to spend on all these different projects. But the fact is, a functioning homestead has way more than just dairy going on. This is a really busy time of year. We're planting our gardens. I actually have a brand new garden space that I'm trying to cultivate and work out. We did just process a whole bunch of meat animals and we're putting those away. There is a lot more than just dairy going on a functioning homestead. If dairy was our main focus, I could spend a lot more time on doing all kinds of things with the dairy, and I would love doing it, honestly. This is where that term, I think, really fits very well. You can feel burdened by the abundance and feel almost guilty not using it to like its fullest capacity, and I don't want anybody to feel that way. This skim milk that we're going to be feeding to the chickens, literally those chickens will use that and turn it into eggs. There's tons of calcium in the milk. There's lots of protein. We are removing the fat, but that's why we still have them on a layer pellet. They've got other sources for that. But being able to supplement our feed bill is a really big deal. Things like that matter a lot on a homestead, and there's really nothing, I say nothing, but there's probably something equal as valuable, but a dairy animal on a homestead is incredibly valuable, especially with the high cost of feed. There's a lot of things that you can feed basically just with milk. There's different breeds of chickens like that grow out for meat that do well on growing out on just milk. I think it's the American breast chicken, if I remember right. And pigs. I miss my pigs, you guys. We had pigs last year and we'll have pigs again next year. But we're on our off year with the pigs. And man, those guys can put away some of these excess milk products and turn them into bacon. And that is incredible. So even though we aren't turning these refuse products into things that humans can eat directly, indirectly, we're absolutely doing that. And that kind of thing is so valuable on a homestead. We could easily, if I tried to process everything and not waste a single thing, I would probably get really burned out. I'm not even gonna say probably, I would definitely get very burned out. And that's not the point. We don't do this life so that we can essentially hate doing it. I think maybe the word sustainable is a little bit of a buzzword in like grocery stores and in marketing. But what that means is that the system doesn't need any outside inputs in order to keep doing what it does, in order to keep producing. It feeds itself and then produces, feeds itself and then produces. And really that is, I think, probably the ultimate goal of many homesteads, is to become more sustainable and less reliant on outside inputs, and finding creative ways to use the refuse products that you have on your homestead is really how you do that. That's what it's all about. I can't remember what law it is, but matter is neither created or destroyed. So those nutrients and things that is in that food, it can and does nourish things like your compost pile, which goes on the garden and is just turned into a different form. Or as I talked about before, it goes into the animal and just becomes something different. And it's it's totally sustainable. That's totally a sustainable practice. It's a beautiful thing, and I really would encourage people to take advantage of these like easy ways out, because Lord knows that we need it sometimes. This is such a busy time of year. I really am blessed with the abundance of milk that we're getting. This is the only time of year that I have to make cheese in this way and to make butter in this way and to put it away in the freezer. So I like to do it, but this is not the time of year that I do a whole ton with the whey and the skim, except feed it to the chickens. The cool thing about things like whey and skim milk from raw dairy is that you can improve upon those things by letting them culture. So not only are we providing a nutritious, like as far as calcium and protein type feed to the birds, we're giving them very valuable probiotics that helps keep them healthy. And the same goes for when we put this in the compost pile. There's microbes and things in the soil that feed on the sugars and goodies out of the milk. Yes, but those probiotics really help culture and like diversify the bacteria and the microbiome that's going into our soil, which gives us healthier plants for us to consume later. Don't condemn yourself for literally going outside and pouring a 5-gallon bucket worth of skim milk into the compost pile. I do it all the time. And I want to give you guys the permission to do so as well, because it has value. There's tons of value in that. I don't know if you guys have been following our garden tours, but I have some parsnips growing in the greenhouse right now. And that particular bed, we filled it with stuff just off of our farm. We had wood from a fallen tree at the bottom. It does have some mulch in it that we bought from the store. It's just a hardwood bark mulch that I had a lot of from the end of season last year. But the real nutritious part of it was compost that we created from our farm. And we're not amazing at making compost. We don't do the temperature gauge and moisture and making sure that we have the exact amount of browns and greens going into it and all that. It's essentially a stationary pile that we just add to, and sometimes I turn it, sometimes I don't. But man, the life inside that bed right now is incredible. And it comes from our farm. It comes from things like this. Okay, so we're at 99 degrees. So I need to turn this on. Sounds like an airplane taking off. So we got about as much cream, or exactly as much cream as I expected. A little over a gallon's worth, which is great. Each one of these quart jars is going to equal 1 pound of butter, plus we're gonna have buttermilk. I like to make my butter after the cream has cooled all the way, so I probably won't get to this until Sunday, but that's fine. I'm just gonna mark it, and when I mark my cream for the fridge, I like to mark it with the date of the oldest milk that we used. So I'm gonna put cream 14, which is going to represent the 14th of April being the oldest contribution to that particular batch of cream. And really, I have made butter using soured cream before, or cultured cream. Delicious, so good. So even if we can't get to it this weekend, maybe I have to wait till next weekend before I make butter, and the cream actually goes a little bit sour, it's totally fine. It makes amazing butter. I did decide, since I already had the pot dirty, that we would try to make the mozzarella out of skim milk on this video. It might be a little bit hard to tell, but we've got separated curds and whey here. I just need to cut them. So it looks a little frothy and fuzzy, and that's because when the cream separator does its job, the skim milk often comes out with like a nice foam layer on top, and so that has kind of turned into curd. See, so far it looks promising. Hopefully it tastes good. I do have a step-by-step video on making goat's milk mozzarella, and I'll link that at the end of this one. See that gorgeous way? I probably will save this simply because it's not like a whole ton, and I do plan to make bread at some point this weekend. Normally I just add milk to our bread recipe because we have a lot of it, but this works too. I think my main gripe with hanging on to the whey from our normal cheese making and from the cream separating day is the fact that it is so much. It can be overwhelming to try to figure out what to do with it. So I do stuff with some of it, just not all of it. This might actually work, you guys, which makes sense. I mean, if there's skim milk mozzarella at the store, why doesn't skim milk mozzarella work at home? This is something that I could see myself doing on cream separating day, mostly because I already have dirty dishes and things, and it will actually save me time in the long run to kind of combine the 2 days. Like, I already had this out for cream separating day and the pot, and there's already milk all over everything. So the goal is to get it to stretch without breaking, about like a foot length of stretch without breaking. And we're also looking for like a shiny texture on the cheese. So right now it's still a little bit grainy. I find that the fresher the milk is with mozzarella, the faster it comes together. And we do have milk in here that is a few days old, but I think it's gonna work. Yeah. I'd say that works, so let's salt it and give it a taste. The best flavor, in my opinion, is when it's fresh and hot like this. So, like just about everything that I've made with skim milk, it does the job, but it's not my favorite. It's one of those things where I would be so grateful to have this option if I didn't get so much milk every week. But is this something that I'm going to keep up when I do have that kind of abundance coming in? Probably not, just because I like the full fat version better. And that's fine. It's good. It's just not as good. This is actually a little ball of mozzarella that I made the other day. I'm going to stick this in here with it. Boop. So as far as the skim goes, we've got this bucket. And then that one. That is a lot of excess. And you could feel real bad about not doing something more with it. But I want to impress upon you that feeding livestock and feeding your compost, these refuse dairy products, is totally valid and does not make you any less of a homesteader, any less worthy of having dairy animals. So because my chickens are not gonna eat all of this at once, I am gonna leave that one out to clabber and culture, and we'll feed him this one. And very likely the livestock guardian dog will partake, and that's fine. It's good for him too. Are you guys ready? They know what the green bucket means. I promised you the video on how we made goat's milk mozzarella from the whole goat's milk. I'll link that up here. And I do have a video where I did a cream separating day and I used every last bit of that milk to make something for human consumption for the immediate future, and I'll link that down here too.